My guest is a nationally known fitness expert. She's been teaching, training, writing books, and creating fitness DVDs for the past 25 years. She's also the founder of GetHealthyU and GetHealthyU TV. I'm excited to welcome Chris Freytag. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Adam. This is awesome.
Yeah, where are you? Are you in Arizona right now?
I'm actually back home in Minneapolis. It's a little bit of a gray, cooler day, but like they say, April showers bring May flowers. So
yeah. How was your time down there? I just spent some time down there too.
We go down, we're now as empty nesters, we try to be a little bit of a snowbird and get down there for a couple months every winter. It is so good for the soul. Sunshine is so amazing.
Especially this year too.
Right. And I love the mountains. I mean, I'm a mountain person. We love to climb. It's just so peaceful and beautiful. So, and I have a lot of family down there. So it's always a good little break in the winter.
Oh, definitely. Where all did you go climbing or hiking?
Yeah. We do a lot of different hikes that, sometimes we do some very difficult ones, some moderate ones, some ones that are good for the dog where we can take our golden retriever with us. So we do a variety. I use that All Trails app. Do you ever use that app?
No, but I know my mom does. She's a huge hiker. Both my parents.
Yeah. Yes. Hiking. Yeah, your mom and dad are both big hikers. So the All Trails app is amazing because you can find and locate trails nearby in a certain area. You can rate them or find them based on difficulty, whether they're dog friendly, how highly trafficked they are. People rate them and give reviews, kind of like a Yahoo.
That's awesome.
So it's awesome. And then you put them in your favorites so you remember that you did them, and you can actually track yourself as you're doing the trails. Some of them are out and backs, but some of them that loop around, it's very helpful to have a map.
Oh yeah.
So you know what you're doing.
On the ones I've done, we actually got lost a couple of times. It was like we ended up doing the same section a couple of times. And it's funny because I'm not a hiker. Like I play basketball and I, lift and do strength training, but both my parents are huge outdoors people and they both love hiking, and they're kind of both of them. So it's funny. They're both kind of competitive with each other about hiking. So
yeah,
it's like one of them will come to me and talk to me about their hike and be like, well, dad thought this and blah, blah, and mom thought this. And like, I'm the weird middleman and there are two competition going on, but
I think your parents maybe introduced me to Tom's Thumb because that's over in their neck of the woods. That's one of my favorite trails in the Scottsdale, Phoenix area. Have you done that one?
I haven't done that one. I'm very inexperienced down in Phoenix, but I've heard the name. My dad loves it because he loves giving the thumbs up, and then it's Tom's thumb. So
it is by no means a joke. Like it's serious in the beginning. The first mile and a quarter is pretty intense, but it's doable for most fitness levels if you can get past that. So it's really a fun one. You got to do it next time.
I do. So when I was curious about that because I did just see that you were doing a lot of hiking. Like, are you still keeping up with your regular regiment when you're also hiking, or how do you adjust that?
I really look at hiking as a workout. I mean, like we do, you don't always have to hike as a workout. There are some more moderate trails that are just for sightseeing, etc. But we kind of use the hike as our workout. So, you got your heart rate going up. I mean, my goodness. And it's such a lower body workout that to me, I really do use it as my cardio and lower body. And then I'll throw in, we bring dumbbells with us when we travel. We throw them in the car because we drive, and I'll do my upper body stuff. But I for sure count it as lower body and cardio. And then of course, when we're with our kids who our kids were kind of coming and going throughout the month and, in their 20s, they can just hike fast because they're young. So we're like, okay, hold on everybody. We're trying to breathe here. And then you're going up in altitude. So it is definitely a challenge. I mean, I use them as my workout.
Yeah. My older brother, Kyle, has gotten really into climbing, and he actually wants to come out and try and climb Rainier this summer. So like, he's like,
Wow.
you should do it with me. I'm like, I don't know if I have enough experience for that, but it sounds, I mean, being in Seattle, like it's having that so close. Like, I'm like, man, I should try and do that if I can. But
Yeah, I think kind of like your parents too, might tell you hiking is something you can do as you age. So, being a runner or an ultra marathoner or something like that, like at what age do you have to stop doing that? And there are some people in their 70s who are doing stuff like that. But the one thing I love about hiking is you can continue to keep hiking. If you keep your lower body strength up and your heart health up, you can continue to keep hiking. It might change a little bit. You might slow down a little bit, but you get a very good workout at a low impact to, it's intense on the muscles, but it is low impact. So I think it's kind of a great thing to take up, that something that you can do with your spouse and or friends into older age.
definitely. So
Yeah.
transitioning just a little bit, like you've been in the fitness industry for 25 years, is that right?
Even longer, sadly.
And what, like, I mean, so I worked for Lifetime corporate for about 3 years. I don't know if you know Shane Fleming or
I know
Tom
of them, yeah.
Manella.
Mhm.
Worked for both those guys. And so I know Lifetime pretty well. I know you've worked with them, but it's pretty rare to find somebody with like 30 years of experience in that industry. And like, when did you start, and like what was the
Yeah.
scene like paint the image for me a little bit, like.
Yeah, I'll take you back to the 80s. So, I have actually worked at Lifetime Fitness as a group fitness instructor for 22, going on 22 years now.
Wow.
And I love the community aspect of that part of fitness. So that's kind of what keeps me going there. But that being said, I got into fitness in the 80s, and I was just a kid who I did like sports when I was growing up. I was never good at sports. Like, I wasn't the girl who was going to be the star player on the basketball team or get the scholarship or any, like, I just liked to move. So I did like track, running was always my thing. Track, of course, I was a cheerleader, those kinds of things. And when I got to college, I became a runner even more seriously, because it was really the only form of fitness in the 80s. There were no gyms. Students didn't belong to gyms. Nobody was really into fitness in the early 80s. So I would run because I somehow correlated that it mentally made me feel good, not necessarily for the calorie burn, but for the mental side, which is kind of interesting to me because I knew nothing about that at the time, besides the fact that it cleared my head.
And what,
I had a girlfriend.
okay, so you're going running, you have no baseline of like what you should do. There's no fitness trackers or what were you doing? Just running
No.
as hard as you could until you couldn't anymore? Or?
No, so I had a girlfriend that also became like my running partner,
Mhm.
and she and I would just run every day, and we would chit chat. We'd catch up with what was going on in classes and social life and boyfriends and blah, blah, blah. And we would just jog along and we would sweat, and, you'd feel good. You would just have this unbelievable euphoric,
And where was
AKA
this, by the way?
endorphins.
Was this in Minnesota?
University of Wisconsin-Madison. I'm a Badger,
Oh, wow.
not a
Nice.
Gopher.
It's a great school though. It was, I've been to a couple of their football games, and you do it right at Madison.
Oh, I'm telling you what, Badgers know how to party. Let me tell
Yeah,
you.
that's 100% true.
Yeah, but so that was kind of my foray into, like, my beginning into knowing that I liked to move my body, and I was doing it for a mental, side of it, which like I said, I hadn't studied any of that. Anyway, going to college, there was no path to fitness as a career back then. I went to my counselor. I didn't want to be a physical therapist at the time, which was kind of the only path that was brought to my attention at that point. So I became a journalist. Journalism was always my love. I love to talk. I loved broadcast journalism at the time. Back in the early 80s, we need to all remember there were no computers, no cell phones. We used typewriters.
Mhm.
So, we had to take typing class, and I loved advertising and all that stuff. So I loved the journalism school. It was awesome. I got a journalism degree, got out of college. I just started at the University of Wisconsin. They had started some fitness. It was called dance aerobics at the time. It was not called group fitness. And I was like, ooh, that's really fun. And I went to a couple of those organized classes, enjoyed myself. So when I moved to Minneapolis after college, I joined a gym because there was the first time I had known about, oh my goodness, you can join this thing called the gym and you can go. And I started going to these dance aerobic classes and I really enjoyed them. And I was like one of those front row people where after work, I would hustle there. So I would get my front row spot. Pretty soon I was like, I should get certified to teach these classes because I love them so much.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and got my certification in 1989 to teach group fitness, and boom, that was it. I just got into it from that point on. Now, exactly at around that time, a couple of years later, Nautilus came into the gyms. It was the very first time that there were machines in gyms that assisted you with weightlifting. Prior to that, it was more like muscle heads in there lifting weights, and women weren't hanging out in the weight room. But once those machines came in, women were like, they even had, I can't really remember, but there was even some machines that were geared towards women. So
there still are,
I was like,
arguably, like the thigh, like I there, it's like women in, whatever that machine is, it's always occupied. Like it is a very
inner and outer thigh.
Yeah.
That machine, Adam, always makes me laugh because I used to see women like reading a book on it. And I'm like, okay, here's the thing. If you can read a freaking book while you're doing inner outer thigh work, you're not working hard enough.
Yeah, no, I think for most exercise too, like if you're completely disengaged mentally, you're probably not getting a great workout.
Yeah. But anyway, that being said, I started lifting weights. And then that was the first time in my life I felt that strong was really something I wanted to be. I never thought that before. I mean, I grew up in the era of don't eat fat, skinny is cool. Like that was the messaging.
Everything sugar free. Like
and fat free. Everything was fat free, which was horrible for you because it was filled with crap. But that being said, so that's kind of what got me into. So I got certified as a group fitness instructor. Then I got certified as a personal trainer, and it was kind of my side hustle while I was working in. Are we going to say what were you doing?
Yeah. What was your day job?
I worked in direct mail, and then I worked in printing. So it was kind of a side to advertising. So up in Minneapolis, I hadn't found a job in an ad agency, and I didn't go the broadcast direction. So I decided to head down that road. And I met an entrepreneur, a gentleman who I still am in contact with. He was a great guy, he was a little older than me, just a few years, but he was a go-getter. It was the first time I even knew what entrepreneurship was. And we were both working at the printing agency, and we decided to break off and start our own printing. We were brokers, basically print brokers. And he said, come with me, let's do this. We can do this. And I was like, oh my God, like, what are we doing? And so I became an entrepreneur without really knowing what I was doing. And I was really working with him. It was him driving the bus, but I learned a lot from him about entrepreneurship. I learned a lot about can-do attitude, never giving up. He was always one of those guys who said, yep, we can do that. And we'd leave and I'd say, how are we going to do that? And he's like, we're going to do it. Don't worry. Yeah. We'd always find a way. So I was, in the middle of this like entrepreneurial spirit and then side hustling fitness on the side. Then I got married to my husband. We met in college. We got married early. I got pregnant when I was 26 years old. I was ready to have a family. And I thought, fitness could be a really good career for me because it had just opened up in terms of personal training, in terms of gyms being a mainstay in our world. So I decided I could quit my day job and become a personal trainer. And so I had this entrepreneurial spirit. So that eventually that's what I did. I quit. I was training people in my homes. I actually made this niche for myself, training moms, because I was a young mom myself. And there were so many moms who had little kids that they couldn't drop off at the child center or whatever because of separation anxiety or who knows what. But it was like, hey, bring your kid to my house. I have kid choice because I have kids and I can train you. And I started training individuals. I started doing small group training without even really knowing what small group training was. I was training all day long.
It's interesting that like fitness training is this entire like spectrum. Like it's such a comprehensive thing. And then the business side of it is this whole other entity. And you're someone that has been able to balance those two things very well. But like most people, it's like they're either a trainer or they run a business. It's not like doing both. You're wearing a lot of like different hats, and to be able to do it well, that's a lot to take on because
Yeah. Well, what kind of happened to me was, as I was getting deeper into fitness, I thought, I'm going to have to go back to school and get my exercise physiology degree, because like I'm a journalist.
Mhm.
So how's that going to work for me? Well, in the long run, my journalism became my ace in my pocket without really realizing it, because to stay certified, you have to take continuing education all the time. So I was, in essence, getting an exercise physiology degree the whole past 30 years, because
Mhm.
you're always taking more classes. But by being savvy in journalism, it opened up more doors for me. So with my entrepreneurial spirit, I was like, I want to get on TV. I'm going to get on TV. And I went to the local TV channel and said, with the help of a friend of mine who was also a entertainment lawyer. So I said to him, can you help me, do some of these things? So we went to the local NBC station and said, you should have health on. You guys have nothing about health. The national news has just started having like segments in the morning news about health. So we talked them into it. They said, okay, let's try it. We'll do it for like 2 weeks. If it's well received, we'll continue. If not, no big deal. Well, I
So
did that,
how long
and it
had you
worked
been
out.
how long had you been running your business for? Because that's a big, I mean, you had a background in it and stuff, but like not a lot of people would feel comfortable doing that. It's a big move, and like you were pretty young still, right?
I was in my 20s. Yeah, probably just in my early 30s, maybe turned about 30. I'd only been in fitness, well, I say only, but like 4 or 5 years. But again, going back to my journalism, my ability to communicate, I felt like there was this thing going on, that there was TV and then video was just starting. And
Mhm.
there was this thing where personal trainers really knew what they were talking about, but weren't comfortable on camera. So I was noticing that there were situations where fitness companies needed a mouthpiece. They needed someone to talk about their products and talk about things, but they also needed someone who could do it on camera. They
Yeah.
couldn't just hire an actress or an actor to talk about fitness, because you really have to understand it to talk about. So I had this weird little niche going for myself where I was like, I can get on TV and talk about these things, So that's how it started with the NBC. Then I started doing video for fitness companies,
Mhm.
like Life Fitness, who makes the fitness equipment in the gyms or the treadmills. And I started doing tutorial videos for them on their website. And I started doing stuff for Octane Fitness. And I started doing stuff for, different companies.
And what
And
year
that created,
what year was this around? Like, because
uh,
the DVD, that was it around late 90s, early 2000s?
yeah, late
Okay.
90s, early 2000s. Exactly. And we still didn't have cell phones to the best of my knowledge. So I was doing some of that stuff. I hooked up with a publishing agency. I went out and pitched a book with the help of my friend who's an entertainment lawyer, and pitched. So I still look back and I laugh, because I'm like, I didn't really know what entrepreneurship was all about, but I was doing it. Like I
Oh
was
yeah.
out there pitching a book, and it's like, why should I pitch a book? I'm like a nobody, but I just didn't give up, and I ended up working for Rodale Publishing for a decade also. So like I did all these weird little side hustles. Um, but then in continuing with that side hustle, group fitness was still my love. I loved it. Changed from dance aerobics to group fitness. It was geared towards men and women, but primarily women were, the audience. And there were VHS tapes out there in the marketplace that were sold in catalogs of workouts. There were people who worked out at home, even back in the 90s.
Mhm.
And so I decided to make my own fitness DVD. I financed it myself. I hired a friend who produced it. I had 2 girlfriends who were in the background for me that were like my backups. And I created this DVD, and I went to a local catalog. So the biggest fitness catalog in the country was located in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Go
Oh
figure.
wow.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, who was
And
it?
it was called, oh my God, why am I losing my mind? Jill Ross ran the company, and it was called Collage Video. Collage
Okay.
Video. And so I would get this catalog in the mail, because I'd obviously subscribed to it, and I would see all these VHS tapes in there. I was like, I can do this. So I created my own. I literally called up Jill Ross, who owned the company. She's such an awesome woman. And I said to her, I'm a local talent. I just made my first DVD. Could I come talk to you? And she was so kind. She said, absolutely. I went out to her little warehouse in Brooklyn Park, and I said, would you put my workout in your catalog? And she said, yes, absolutely. I'd love to support local talent. No harm, just put it in her catalog. So she puts it in her catalog, and I don't even remember how long it was in her catalog. And I got a phone call from a large company that used to make tons of DVDs and VHS tapes first, called Anchor Bay Publishing. And they called me and they said, we saw your video and we would like to hire you to do some videos for us. And I was like, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That was my first chance to make videos for someone else. So I worked for Anchor Bay, and then from Anchor Bay.
Before moving on, how did your video do on the local level, or in that? Did you make your money back at least, or like?
Yeah, it was kind of a break-even situation for me. I did it very low budget.
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you though, the fact that was my entry into other things was really, that was the important thing about that,
Sure.
I mean, and I could fill all of your ears for so long. There's so many weird tentacles to what I did in the past. Like, one of the things I did is I also was working on home shopping. I had applied to work on home shopping. If you think QVC, HSN,
My mom
Shop
said
HQ.
that she had seen you on there before, and she's like,
Yeah,
"Are you still doing that?" I'm like, "I'm not. I'm gonna have to ask."
Yeah, well, we can talk about that, but unfortunately, yes, I still am. It's like the thing I can't get away from. But so I had this opportunity to go on TV. I was already selling products, and so I was able to sell my DVDs to Shop at NBC. It was Shop at NBC at the time, and asked them to sell it online and on air with some of the other things that we were selling. And so that was lucky for me in the sense that I made my money back on that DVD. I always go back to the Oprah thing of, success is not just luck, it's preparation, meeting opportunity, right? Meeting the luck. So I worked hard, but once I got that DVD out there, it went from a couple, collage video to Anchor Bay to then Rodale Publishing to Exercise TV. And then I was working for Exercise TV for many years, which was an online fitness channel. And so then I moved into DVDs because DVDs were brand new, and it was like, how exciting, a DVD.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so just to move on from there, I stopped training people in person. I was just running a blog. I started blogging. I was doing more stuff, working for NBC, working in home shopping, working for Rodale. I was just doing all that kind of stuff. About 7 years ago, I started noticing that DVDs were going bye-bye. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was using DVDs. My kids were telling me about streaming. I didn't really understand what streaming was, but I knew that my new computer did not have a DVD player. That was kind of my first thing, where I was like, I don't have a DVD player anymore. So I decided, okay, I'm going to have to take my workouts to streaming.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that happened was Exercise TV folded. They were bought by NBC Comcast. And I just got a call one day that said, no more Exercise TV. And that's where I was really getting my audience from. And they were finding me online because everything was new online.
Mm-hmm.
And I was devastated. And I wanted my workouts back because they weren't mine. They owned them. They paid me to do them. But I'm like, well, if you're not going to use them anymore, I want to use them. So I went back and forth with them, but they were such a big company. And the bottom line was, I was told, you're never going to get the rights to those workouts. They don't care about those workouts. Pretty much NBC probably threw them on the floor of a closet and shut the door.
I just know that they're not giving them to you.
Mm-hmm. And my lawyer told me, you can put them online with other stuff if you want to, but if they catch you and decide they want to ruin your life, they will. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, so I had to just let go of all those workouts. So to be honest, I did not own one workout. I had been doing, the only workout I owned was the one I had made back in 2002 or whatever it was. So
this is like the equivalent of like an artist, a musician, like not having the masters to any of their songs and then trying to go on tour. Like you have nothing you can play that you own.
That's it. And so I said, okay, I have to get into streaming and I have to make my own content. So I decided, I was doing a lot of research into how can I create streaming? Like, how do I start that? How do I create that portal online? And how am I going to take people's money? And how am I going to make sure this works and that works? And I was doing some research as to third parties that were offering that. And it was so new, even 7 years ago, which is crazy that, there were a couple companies that were offering things. Now there's so many companies that offer third party platforms for fitness professionals and or other types of people to go on and host their content. But 7 years ago, there really wasn't. So I was researching and finding different, opportunities and trying to decide how I was going to do it. And then I came upon a friend who, again, Minneapolis, what an interesting city. There's so many different businesses here. I had a friend call me and he said, "Hey, what are you doing? And what's going on in your career?" And he was in direct mail. So he was one of those companies that way back when, do you remember, Adam, did you ever subscribe to something where you subscribe and then they send you a DVD every month or every week?
CD,
That's
the
a CD.
Yeah, it got old real quick.
Yeah, well, those companies had to pivot because all of a sudden nobody wanted your DVD or your CD anymore. They became streaming products.
Mm-hmm.
So this friend of mine called me and said, we pivoted from direct mail to streaming. I'm just wondering what you're doing with content right now. And I said, well, I'm actually looking to create a platform where I can stream workouts, and I'm going to make workouts, and I want to anyway, long story short, we decided to partner. And they were interested in getting into women's fitness, but didn't really know how to. And I was interested in streaming my content, but didn't really have all of the back end
the technology
stuff necessary. Yeah. So we partnered, and it's been 6 years now. We've been live for 4.5, 5 years. I can't even, honestly, I don't know if this was year 5 or year 4. I think this was year 5 that I've had GetHealthyU UTV. So that's how that all started. Mm-hmm. And I just started making content like nobody's business. I mean, I was just filming. And again, technology changed, because back in the 90s and early 2000s, when I was filming for these other companies, I would fly out to LA. It was a huge production. There would be 20 people on set. There was, these elaborate sets, and it would take days and blah, blah, blah. Now, like, you can film in your living room. you can use your iPhone. I mean, like, it is unbelievable how production and technology has changed.
Do you think that the difference in production quality really matters to the consumer? Like, if it's on set versus like there's some like baseline that it needs to be, but like, they don't, I just wonder, like, most people are looking for a workout. They want it to look professional on the DVD, but like, do you really need like the Oprah setup for like people? I would assume like people want more variety than they would care about like the delivery mechanism.
Yeah, so that's interesting, because we did a lot of like consumer research as we were getting into this. And there's kind of, in my opinion, there's kind of two fitness consumers. There's the fitness consumer that's always going to want it free. They're never going to pay, and they don't give a crap about the quality. They want free. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to be your YouTubers that just go on YouTube. They're willing to sacrifice whether your mouth is moving at the same time that your body is moving. They're willing to sacrifice no music in the background. They're willing to have ads play because they want free. And mm-hmm. there are so many YouTubers out there killing it. And it's an awesome, that was one route to go. That was one route I had actually considered. The other route is your Pelotons, your Beachbodies, your Apple Fitness, your GetHealthyU UTV, where they're produced nicely. I mean, you expect a higher quality product than you would off of YouTube. And there's not going to be any ads in the middle of the workout. And you're going to be able to stream on different platforms. You're going to be able to use Apple TV, Chromecast. We have also built a Roku channel, which is big because Roku is the #1 streaming device out there.
Interesting.
And so building a Roku channel is a huge undertaking financially and technology wise. But so I think you kind of there's like one of two things. And so, yeah, I don't think that people expect, like, you don't have to have this LA set anymore. But I do think like we've maintained a level of, like, we do have 2 cameras or 3 cameras at all times instead of just one iPhone. And we do have royalty-free music, but we do offer music, and we do run it on a different track from the vocals so that it just works a little better. Like, for instance, I'll do Facebook Live workouts sometimes, and they're fun, and I'll have 1,000 people join in, and we're all working out together, and there's something really fun about that element. But like the playback, people will go, "Oh, well, your mouth is moving and it's 2 steps behind your feet," and I'm like, well, that's Facebook. I can't do anything about that. Yeah. I mean, that's just the way it is. So I do think there's a variety. It depends on the consumer, but we kind of go on that end of, okay, we're going to make it look nice, but it isn't like we're spending $60,000 every time we film a video, for God's sake,
before moving on at all, I just want to say it's really interesting to talk to somebody that has so much experience from, like, I remember growing up where you get direct mail stuff. And then when the internet came, and then how that's changed. And then around like 2011, 2012, where streaming services took over, and like, there's no more Blockbuster Video. And like, you've been directly affected by all of that and sort of have adjusted, but like, that had to be kind of maddening at times, right? Because once you get set up, like, whatever is going to replace streaming in 7 years from now, like that, you sort of have to be like an expert in technology and where things are going, in addition to running your business.
Yeah. And you have to be willing to, I mean, I'm kind of sick of the word pivot, like 2020 and the word pivot. Ugh. But you kind of have to pivot, because I was really challenged in so many ways. I would hit these blocks where, like, for instance, blogging. I'll even use the example of blogging. So I started blogging in like 2010 because I'm a journalist. I love to write. I'm really into education. So as a fitness trainer, it's always been my passion, and especially as I get older, to talk about good form and help people. Because if you're just squatting and you're hurting your knee, or you're lunging and you're hurting your, your groin, or you're, doing push-ups and you're using all your traps instead of your triceps. I mean, like that causes a lot of injury as you get older. And so like, I'm so passionate about that. So I started blogging because I wanted to share stuff with people. Like, the more you know, the better you do. Well, blogging started as like fun. It was just fun to share information. And I was writing article after article. And then I hired a couple of people who were also writing with me. Well, now, about 5 years ago, Google changed the game on blogs. And now if you want to monetize your blog, and you want to actually have ad dollars that help you pay for your blog, then you need to pay attention to search engine optimization, which is like literally sticking a gun to your head. Like, it is so time consuming. I spend half my day every single day on search engine optimization. SEO is the death of us. And no longer do you just write from your heart, but now you have to think, what's the keyword? What are competitors doing? How's this on Google? Look at your search console, see how you can rank. How are you going to get on page 1? Where, do you have this? Do you have that? You have to have this whole go live checklist before you put anything up on the internet, if you're trying to monetize. I mean, that for a lot of people could be a roadblock where you go, game over, I'm done. Like, this is too hard. All I want to do is tell people good information. But we got into the point where it was like, I want to tell people good information, but I can't afford to tell people good information unless I make some money on the ad dollars.
Yeah.
And so that's a whole nother ball game,
and then it changes what your creative approach is too. Like, you want to say things in your voice and how, what you mean, but then you got like it's like trying to fill out a resume so that it goes through the system so you can actually get the interview. Like, if you don't have all those keywords, nobody's going to see it. And I deal with a similar thing with comedy, where if you don't have the right kind of criteria built into your content, like, it just goes into the abyss, and you're like, what am I even creating this for? But I would say, like, you always learn something in the attempt. And like, I'm sure writing those blogs has aided you in everything else that you ended up later pursuing. So
right.
I think I lost your oh, there we go.
Whoops, sorry. There we go. Yeah. So now, and just to clarify, so GetHealthyU, the letter U.com, is the blog. That's where I started blogging. GetHealthyUTV.com is the membership website. So people, they kind of are intertwined in some ways, but I always remind people that GetHealthyU is just a blog. It's just places where you can get free information. GetHealthyU TV is where you log in if you're a member and you want to stream the workouts.
Got you. And like, I kind of had a list of questions for you, but we're jumping around a little bit. But who would you say is like no, it happens every time. Like, you want to prep a conversation with somebody, but if I asked you question by question, it would be a very boring dialogue, But who's the target audience for Get Healthy UTV?
One thing that's been interesting for me is that my audience has kind of aged with me. I think when I was a young mom, most of my audience was a young mom. Now, as I'm in my 50s, I think, we do a lot of research, but, and surveying of our audience, but primarily 45 to 65, I would say was my real sweet spot, and primarily female. But we do have that younger audience for sure, of moms that are working out at home, working professionals that are working out at home. But I would say that sweet spot is probably 40, 45 to 65.
Okay. And do you have products that are tailored towards men at all, or is it primarily towards female?
We kind of stayed towards female. And every so often I'll get an email from someone and say, well, why aren't you unisex? Why don't you have more for men? It's like, well, it's like, you can't be all things to all people. And that was just my decision in the beginning, is that we decided to appeal more to women. Interestingly enough, a lot of women, their spouses work out with them, which I think is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they'd be like, oh, let me try this workout that you're doing. They'd be like, holy crap, it's kicking my butt. I mean, because like to my live classes at Lifetime Fitness, I'd say they're half men, half women. So by no means are these workouts easy or only for women, but we just tend to market in the marketplace towards women.
Gotcha. And sort of, is there like a long-term goal of the business, like in terms of staying with whatever the next technological revolution is, or like what would you like to see happen with it 5 years from now?
I think streaming is now like a commonplace household word. I mean, even 5 years ago, I had to explain to my friends what streaming was. And now you just say the word streaming and it's like saying, anything, people get it.
Isn't it
I think,
sort of, not to cut you off, but I was in prepping this interview, but like, isn't it sort of crazy that 10 years ago, you had to order the DVD or go to the store and get it, and now you can just turn on an app and it's an entire catalog of stuff? Like, that was so unfathomable at that time for like full movies, and to not even have to leave your house. Like, it was such a difference.
It is really crazy. And now when you look at like the advent of things like YouTube TV and stuff, like, you don't even need cable. Like you can just like get anything you want anywhere. It's kind of crazy.
Reddit streams, whatever.
Yeah. But I think for a long-term goal, as you're asking, it's just continually, it's very similar to a physical gym where we are constantly working on new memberships. And then we're always working on retention. How do we retain our members? How do we keep them renewing every year? We are on an annual membership versus a lot of our competitors offer a monthly subscription. We do offer a monthly subscription, but we market our annual membership where we bring people in, we give them a deal on the first year, and really giving them that time. And I really, so many of these like online memberships give you 7-day free trial, 14-day free trial. That really stresses me out when I sign up for something for a 7-day trial, because I'm always like, oh my gosh, what am I doing for the next 7 days? Like, do I have time to try it out? Mm-hmm. And, then if you don't use it, you kind of lose interest in it. Well, that's why we give people a longer period of time. Like, you might sign up for Healthy UTV and not use it for 2 months, but all of a sudden you go on vacation, you're like, oh God, I signed up for that thing. I'll use it because I'm going to be traveling. So we give that first year, and then it's an annual membership renewal. And our goal is always to just, obviously grow the number of members, but it's such a competitive landscape. I mean, now COVID changed the game. The pandemic changed the game because everyone wanted live. Like, they went from being okay with just having a streaming library to saying, oh, I'm so bored at home. Could somebody do something live for me? And so we started changing our offerings, and we have 2 levels of membership, premium and gold. And our gold members get 2 live workouts a week, 2 new live workouts a week.
Wow. And is it from you every time too?
No, I built a team of trainers because let's face it, I'm too tired.
Yeah.
I mean, people want variety, just like Peloton. They love the difference in age groups and the difference in personalities. So we have a variety of 8 trainers. I was actually talking with my team yesterday, and we're like, we need to add like 1 more trainer because people's lives are busy. And some people specialize in different things. We just added our first male trainer, which was really exciting because he adds a new element of fun for our audience. And so it's a variety of trainers, not just me.
Yeah, that actually leads into my next question. Is just like some practical, personal questions. Like, is it pretty challenging to just like to be like quote unquote on all the time? Or in how do you like keep the energy levels up? Are you faking it some of the time? Because I do stand up and like I do this, and there are times where it's like stuff happens in your life, like bad things happen, and then you have to like it's lights, camera, action. You get in front of the camera and I mean, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes that work is a good detractor for when things are hard, right? So when something has happened in my family that's emotional or hard, I sometimes find that when I have my work and I get into the workday and I'm busy and my mind is doing productive things and I'm feeling fulfilled, that actually helps me work through some of those problems. So, you don't want to hide behind something, but I do feel like my work will help me often when I'm in a funk, because it is a place where I'm being productive and creative, and it keeps me going. In terms of energy, like I always joke, people have always said, Adam, I mean, I've always been like this crazy high energy person.
Mhm.
I do with age need more sleep. I used to be that person who just was like, I don't need sleep. Well, I need sleep.
How much do you
and
sleep
in
a night? Like what's like an average throughout your career? How has that been too? Like
I used to get away with 5 hours of sleep and it never bugged me. Now I am there are nights sometimes where I do get like 5 hours, but I'm more of a 6 to 8.
mhm.
And I was never an 8 hour a night sleeper. Like never in my life was I. I think I averaged like 7 to 8 now, which is important. Like I would like more. I just can't stay asleep. My body wakes up. But I I definitely get tired faster. I need more recovery time at my, I'm 55. I need more recovery time. I still love to do high intensity workouts, but I definitely need more recovery than I did when I was younger. But I am pretty high energy, although I will say, I mean, I notice age, like, I always try to tell people age is a number, like you can do it, but it definitely changes. Your body changes. I'm sure like your parents would tell you, you just, everything changes. I think the thing that's really beautiful about age is wisdom. And so you start to become more comfortable, hopefully, with yourself and realize I don't feel the need to compete with the trainers on my team that are 30. They're 30. I'm 55.
Yeah.
They should be able to jump higher than me, in most cases. There are some people my age who are still doing crazy stuff, and that's awesome. But um, I give myself a lot of grace. I don't let myself compete with who I used to be. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I don't let myself compete with who I used to be. I just honor where I'm going. Does that make sense?
Totally. My dad, is my dad, and he's
Yeah.
a very competitive person. Like it runs in our family. Like my younger brother is one of the most competitive people I know, and my dad's in Arizona in the wintertime, and so he started playing pickleball, and it's like this great thing that he can do where it's low impact. He just had his hip replaced, and he can get a really good workout in, but he's not like doing the bounding and like the really aggressive stuff on his joints. And so he's found like a great way to work out, be competitive at, his age, and play with people that are 20 years older than him and still getting great workouts in. So I think it's awesome to see how people like adjust to that, because some people, they throw in the towel. They're like, yep, I'm not working out anymore. If I can't squat 400 pounds, I'm not doing a workout. But like, I like the people that kind of angle and figure out what works for them, and don't give up.
Yeah. And an example for myself, I was a runner. As I started out as a runner, not a competitive runner, but a runner who loved to run. And I started realizing it was like 8 years ago, 10 years ago, that running was like really became my nemesis. And I was having back trouble, and I was having knee trouble in one knee only when I would run. No trouble when I squat, no trouble when I lunge, no trouble when I hike. But when I would run, I would have this trouble. So it was like mentally debilitating to me to say, oh my God, I don't know if I can run anymore. And I started becoming a walker. And at the time, I didn't really think of walking as fitness. I was like, well, walking is just like to take your dog out.
Mhm.
And I have changed my tune so much. And now I'm like an avid walker, and I walk with friends, and I try to walk anywhere from 2 to 6 miles a day. And I love it. And I view it as fitness. And it's kind of interesting to me because, now it's so valuable to me. And now that we all wear these trackers, I'm burning calories, I'm getting my heart rate in a moderate place. It's definitely not my high place, but it's worthy. And there's so many studies out there that show that people who think walking is worthy stay in good shape late in life because they still believe that walking works. So they continue to walk and walk and walk into their 70s and 80s. Whereas people kind of like what you just said, if I can't squat 400 pounds, forget it, I'm done. People throw in the towel and they go, well, forget it, walking's stupid, so I'm just going to give up. And they end up deteriorating faster. So it's kind of interesting. I did change my mindset on walking for sure.
It's so funny that you say that, because when, lockdown happened, I'm in Washington. They were very stringent. Like it was basically just don't go out of your house. So I had groceries delivered, like everything. But I play basketball regularly 3 to 4 times a week. So I'm getting like super intense cardio, and I was just always really active. And I went from that to just being at my house all the time. And within like, I don't know, month of this, like I just started getting it was like a band around my lower stomach. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like I'm doing at home workouts, and I realized like I usually walk 10 to 12,000 steps a day because I work in a manufacturing facility, and like you're just moving around. And I got a pedometer, like a Fitbit, and just made like an active attempt to walk at least for 30 minutes every day. And it's mentally, it's the same thing as what you said when you were younger with running. Like at first you're like, this does not do anything. I went for like an hour and 10-minute walk yesterday on like for an active rest day. And by the time I got home, I was like I was tired. Like it works really well. And it actually, like, for just keeping your heart rate up and like mentally clearing too, I really like it. Like, and I never, if I had not stopped playing basketball, there's no way I ever would have, like, if you would have said, hey, you should go for walks, I'd be like, okay, buddy. Like, it's just, I would never have believed it.
Right. Well, and that's so interesting because even someone at your age seeing the value of it. Yeah. It literally makes sense. And walkers, I encourage people, anyone listening, like, do not discount walking. Today I walked, and it was an active recovery day for me also. I looked at my watch. I burned like 450 calories. I walked like 5 miles, had, some social time with a friend, got the dog out. Listen, if I didn't burn those 450 calories every day, I'm for sure going to gain weight at some point, right? I mean, because that is a constant, just keeping your body in constant motion. So sometimes, they call it NEAT, NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, meaning you don't have to always work out. Like, there are societies that aren't working out, but they are active, to your point, walking 10,000 steps a day, moving around, doing things. And so those activities that are non-exercise activities, but they're movement, they matter.
Oh, definitely. And another kind of funny thing, the idea of doing this episode with you, I was down in Arizona, and my mom goes for walks every day, and I never would have done that growing up prior to, like, everything happening with the pandemic. So we're out for a walk, and she's like, you know what? Chris is such an interesting person, and she has so much experience. Like, I think she would be really good. So because of that, we're having this conversation now, which is kind of ironic.
Because of a walk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. Adam, I was thinking a little bit about one of the questions you had sent to me on email about people's success with fitness, right? Mm-hmm. You had said, like, what have you seen, like, in terms of clients, in terms of success? I'm thinking, in terms of walking and what people's mentality. And it really makes me think. So I run another one of my weird side hustles is I have a 7-week e-course, because, again, I want to tell people, the educator at heart, I want to help women, like, understand, women in particular, understand, like, you can lose weight, you can get into shape, you can feel good about you. And losing weight isn't always about vanity. It's about overall health. It's about what are your health numbers? Like, do you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high triglycerides? Do you have high blood sugar? Are you diabetic? Are you, do you have this problem, that problem? Like, we want to get these things in check. And the first thing that I always start with in my course is the mental side. You and I just talked a little bit about the mental side of fitness, but we always start with mindset. And people are like, yeah. No, aren't you going to tell me what to eat first? I mean, like, I got to eat. What should I be eating? I'm like, no, the first thing we're going to start with is mindset, because not anybody, but most people can kind of torture themselves and go either on a diet or go on some crazy fitness program and do it for a month and lose some weight and, make it through. But it never sticks unless they found the mental side first of like why they're going to do it. And I feel like a lot of people will begin walking when they realize the worth of just walking for walking. It's not like it's going to become your, craziest workout, but like the mental side of clearing your head, getting in the steps, so that's kind of interesting to me. So one of the things I always start with all of my clients and or all my online people is the mindset. Why do you want to get healthy? What's your why for wanting to change? Because obviously the impetus to change, you've got to have a why. Is it energy? And I always tell anyone I work with or who signs up for the course, it can't be weight loss. You cannot write on the piece of paper that you downloaded, weight loss is your why. Find a why that's, I want more energy. I want to play with my grandkids. I want to change my health numbers because I'm scared. I want to get off medications. I want to think clearer. I want to sleep better. Like, what is your why? And then work towards those things. And then weight loss seems to always be the byproduct of taking better care of yourself. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah. That's almost like a sales approach where it's like, you're not selling the product itself. You're selling the benefits of the product. And
yeah,
it's 100% true. And
yeah. And a lot of people will say, well, we start with the mindset, but when the walking made me think of it. Cause I'll say, just start walking. They're like, well, walking's not gonna do anything. Give me a fitness program. I'm like, no, just start walking.
yeah.
Like, start walking, work on your mindset. Then we'll get into those other things as we slowly get through.
And you can listen to the Fadam and Friends podcast while you go for a walk. We can get it all in.
I love that. I know it's a good time for podcasts. I love that.
For sure. So I got one more question about just sort of the practical stuff with your business. And then I got some listener questions. Some people submitted that they were either fans of yours or had some questions about health and fitness. So my last question is has it been challenging to be, you talked about being in this space for a long period of time, but being female and aging in an industry where vanity seems incredibly necessary, is there a lot of pressure to look a certain way? And if so, how have you kind of had to keep yourself in check with that?
Yeah, it is a very, vanity focused industry. Again, I think with age, the gift of age is wisdom. Nobody can give it to you. You get it with age. And one of the things I feel like as a female is that I have just become more comfortable with myself. I'm not so worried. I'm not out there to impress anybody. I don't have to have the best muscles or the this or that. It's like, I do stay in good shape because I'm consistent. That's the key word. But there's no doubt that I'm 55. So of course I'm going to have wrinkles on my neck, or of course my skin is changing, or of course, my legs aren't the same as they used to be. That used to I'd freak out. When I was younger, there was a part where I was like, I'm not going to wear shorts because I don't like my legs anymore. Now I'm like, you know what? I'm 55. I'm going to wear shorts whenever the heck I want to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm okay with it. The other thing for myself was to always stay grounded when this whole social media thing came through, because sex sells, right? You take pictures. Well, we all know, you've seen a lot of stuff on the internet. And I was like, that's not what I'm about. As a human being, that just isn't what I'm about. And I want women to celebrate themselves and also feel comfortable with themselves and know that I'm approachable. There's no such thing as perfection. So I'm not going to put pictures of myself all the time in a swimsuit. Look at my abs, look at me, that's just not me, because
it's become this sort of shameless culture too with some of the the new generation. And there's like, I think it's sort of rampant for people that have some mental health stuff going on where they're like, yeah, no, I'm just going to put up basically naked pictures of myself. And then it's like,
Yeah.
you're competing with something like that. And that's kind of its own
Yeah.
thing, like it's not really
Yeah.
fitness. It's sex, like you
It
said.
became like fitness. There was a word for it at the time. I'm trying to think of what it was, like Fitspo or something, where it was like
Mhm.
people like using sex as their fitness. I'm like, that is not, especially at my age, that's not what I'm about. And so I've stayed really true to myself and my audience of like, that's not what I stand for. And that doesn't matter. That's not what matters when you get older. What matters is your family. What matters is your health. What matters is the way you think and feel. And so that's what I've stayed more focused on.
Yeah, thank you. That I was definitely really curious about that. So let's pivot a little bit, the word of 2020. But so my friend David asked the question, how do you start a fitness program and not give up after like a few days?
the story of everybody kind of goes back to what I was saying about the why. You have to have a strong why. You have to connect to something that is deeper than I want to lose 10 pounds. Because it's so easy to give up on those 10 pounds. You see all the memes on the internet, right? I was doing great and then I saw pizza and I ate it and screw it, I'm done. That kind of thing. So it's like, why do you want to change? And get real about that. Like really own it. Like, I want to get rid of my blood pressure meds. Like, and you can through food. You can. I mean, you absolutely can. So like, people have to get clear on their why. The other thing that I've always been a big believer in is baby steps. And I remind people this all the time. You don't gain 50 pounds overnight. It does not happen overnight. It takes time. It
Mhm.
takes a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is. It's that creep. And so you cannot expect changes overnight. And when people jump into a fitness program that is way too intense, way too much for their body, way too restrictive of a diet, they will always quit. That is human nature. You can read any psychology book. You are bound to quit. You have to let your body adapt to exercise. You don't want to get injured. If you join CrossFit and you're injured in the first week, are you going to keep going? Absolutely not. So your joints, your muscles, everything, I go through that whole thought process of, you've got to let your body acclimate. You got to start eating differently slowly. Your system's not, if all of a sudden you just start eating only raw vegetables and you haven't eaten a raw vegetable in 10 years, you're probably going to have diarrhea or something.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean,
It's a lot
you
of
have
fiber
to
too.
eat, you got to ease into this. So that's really my thing, is like, commit, like you are worth it. Commit, get those memes up that say things like, I was made to do hard things. And yes, you can. And, all these, and build yourself up and give yourself small goals, because it takes time. There is nothing sexy about weight loss and fitness. It doesn't happen overnight. It is slow and controlled.
Okay. That's great. Second question is, it's kind of piggybacking off of that. This is from my friend Jeremy. You live in Minnesota and he lives there as well, but a state known for very delicious state fair food and other, delicacies. How do you balance fitness while still like indulging in some of those things and enjoying yourself? And that can be with, food,
Well,
drinks, whatever.
yeah, I'm definitely a healthy eater. I mean, my kids would tell you, they'd be like, all she has in the house is healthy food, So I am a healthy eater. I mean, just by nature, I use that 80-20 rule. 80% of the time I'm eating healthy. But I'm more of a sweets person. So I'm not going to go to the state fair and eat a blooming onion, but I'm going to go to the state fair and get the largest ice cream cone that they have. So that's more my downfall. But again, 80-20. I always tell people, this is kind of my thing. Discipline is freedom. Think about that statement. Discipline is freedom. When you are in control, you feel freer in your life. When your life is spinning out of control, you just feel overwhelmed and often depressed or confused or whatever it might be. So I'm so controlled in a good way, not in like a weird way, with food. Like, where normally I eat healthy, I eat a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits. I'm always doing, good, healthy protein, healthy fats, that kind of thing. That when I do say, hey, I'm having fries and an ice cream cone, it doesn't even affect me. Like, I'm not worried about, like, nobody, like I said, back to what you said, you don't gain weight overnight. Eating an ice cream cone does not put 10 pounds on your body. Who cares? So I go to the state fair and eat a bunch of food one day, who cares? Because I know that I'll eat healthy the next day. You know what I'm saying? So I don't let that get to me. And I definitely am healthy during the week. I'm busy during the week. I'm not like every night drinking, or I don't have a job where I have to go meet people for drinks every night. So, I'm pretty healthy during the week, but then like it's Saturday. Am I going to have a glass of wine tonight? Absolutely. I absolutely, so, but I'm smart about it. Like, I'm not going to go have 15 margaritas because there's so much sugar in it. You just have to balance it. But I think the 80-20 rule is a really good rule, where 80% of the time you're trying to do the right thing, and 20% of the time you give yourself that wiggle room where it's no problem. Eat a pizza, eat some French fries, like no big deal.
Awesome. Yeah. And then I got one question for you too. This might be sort of a you might have to get back to me on this, but so I do stand up pretty much every night, and one thing I've noticed is like your adrenaline gets going when you're getting on stage. Like I'm sure you feel it when like right before you're getting on camera, or anytime a microphone gets in front of you, there's this, response to that. And, I go up late at night, and then afterwards I just end up, I don't know if it's the adrenaline or what, but I am like, I can eat the house after doing stand up, like, and I crave like the worst food, and I've heard other people kind of feel the same way. And what would you recommend dealing with that? Because it's late at night, it's like right before I go to sleep, and then I wake up the next morning, it's like I just feel like I have concrete in my stomach if I end up eating a bunch.
Well, it's kind of, first of all, the fact that you do stand-up comedy that often, I knew you did it, but I didn't know that often. Holy cow, you're amazing. Because that is hard.
It's
that is
fun though.
Unbelievable.
It's incredibly fun.
Incredibly fun. Well, that is so awesome. I think that's amazing. I'm proud of you. I think with COVID, just this little sidebar, I became really interested in comedians. I love looking at comedians on Instagram and just seeing like cute little bits, fast, funny, just crack me up. I think we all needed a little lightheartedness. And I'm like, oh, it's so fun, but so good for you. But yeah, so that's a pretty natural response to the body when you do anything that is intense, like getting up on stage and doing stand-up. And then afterwards, like it's an emotional, like come down, like you're emotionally coming down from it. And you're like, oh, and food is emotional. That's what we have to remember, is that food for nourishment, yes, but we use food for emotional reasons a lot in our culture. And so your body is responding to it. It's almost like a Pavlov's dog, where you're like, okay, I just did this really intense thing. Okay, now I'm emotionally coming down, and now food is your comfort. So me personally, what I would suggest is, like, again, now discipline is freedom. Finding some way to say, okay, I know I'm going to feel this way. I already know I'm going to feel this way. So pre-planning, like, what is it that you're going to allow yourself to eat? Is there something where you're like, I'm just going to have this one drink and this one snack, or whatever it might be. And then I'm going to take deep breaths. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to, come down and relax, and not let food be the only thing that's relaxing me. Just let it happen, and then go to sleep, and really kind of change. If you let yourself, back to what I was saying, is when you get kind of like so emotionally into it that you're a little out of control and you don't know what's happening. And then you wake up the next morning and go, oh, why did I do that? If you are able to control the situation, make it a little bit more of a controlled situation, slowly but surely, it will hopefully always be a controlled situation. Hopefully, and I know I'm thinking too. So when I used to work at QVC, I used to fly to Philadelphia every week. And I would fly there, and I'd arrive at like 11 at night. I always took this flight that got me there really late. I'd drive to my hotel, go to sleep, because I was on air the next morning. And it was like a major routine. But for some reason, whenever I landed at like 11, and then I had a 45-minute drive in my car, like I wanted food, because I was like, I got to get awake. I got to stay awake. I've got this job, this drive. I don't know. There was just this emotional response for me that I wanted food. So I started having to bring like something with me in my bag that I would be okay with eating. Like, eat this. It's 11 o'clock at night. You shouldn't be eating, but eat this, because I found that happy medium. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What did you bring, out of curiosity? Like, was there like fruit
I'm obsessed with these dried apple things from, Trader Joe's. They actually still have them. They have had them forever, and they're not dehydrated. They're not crunchy. They're chewy, and they have no added sugar. And so I would be like, okay, I'm gonna eat, and they're unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
So I would eat those, or I would bring with me like some sort of cracker or chip. I was okay with their trail mix, and usually an apple. I mean, an apple kind of became my go-to, so that but that was my way of trying to control the situation. But food was definitely something I wanted at that moment.
Yeah, I've been trying to do some of that, but the problem is I sort of like that emotional response takes over. And I just find like the one thing that's like sort of on the line, like trail mix that has some stuff that's in there, like M&Ms or whatever. And then I wake up and like I'm next to an empty bag of trail mix and just like disappointed in myself. And so it's
that is hard.
Yeah. And I've been, doing better about it, but I haven't found the right combination of like, do I need something with fiber in it? Do I need like more protein or whatever? And I think it just boils down to like some control stuff too.
I think control, and like obviously the combination of carbs, a healthy fat, well, which nuts and seeds are, but a healthy fat will kind of hopefully stop you a little faster rather than empty carbohydrates that just seem like you can't stop eating them when they have sugar in them. But if you have something that has a little fat to it, hopefully maybe
what would you recommend for something like that? Because it's easy to overdo like seeds and nuts. Like, you eat a handful of them. That's depending on how big your hand is, like it's a big serving.
Yeah, you can eat a whole bag. Yeah. I mean, okay, so do you like things like, depends on whether you're like a dessert person or whether you go for salty. Do you go for salty or sweet?
I'm a big food person. Like
you like food in general?
Yeah, I'm like, down to eat whatever.
I've found, okay, for myself, first of all, can't eat out of the bag, can't eat out of the container. Let's say I want to eat ice cream, or I want to eat, like, I love that Halo Top, which is like a protein ice cream, or love it. Or are you going to have some, granted, it's not real ice cream. When you put it next to real ice cream, yes, real ice cream is better. But when you have it separately, I love it. But I'll like take Halo Top, I put it in a bowl, I'll put berries all over it, I'll throw a scoop of trail mix all over it, and then I'll just eat that container of it, savor it, love it, and then that's it, move on.
Gotcha.
If I allow myself to eat out of a container, forget it. Like a bag of popcorn, I can literally eat the whole bag of popcorn.
Yeah. My family is from Vermont, and Ben and Jerry's is like the death of my mom and I. Like and she knows when I'm coming into town, so she'll get Ben and Jerry's. I'm just like, God, damn it. Like because I just can't say no to it, but
it's so good.
Yeah, it's great. All right. Well, I want to close with just like a story. I asked you if anything crazy or unexpected or funny happening while you're teaching fitness stuff. Like I've had some wacky stuff happening during working out, but like, has anything happened to you personally or teaching during?
Well, I've had wacky things happen to me while working out, or like where I've done, said something stupid over the microphone, which you can't take back. And you're like, oh God, did I just say that? I've had a couple of times where I was sick, and didn't really know I was so sick. I'm trying to think of, this was recent. Oh, I know. I just come home from Croatia. So we had been traveling internationally, and I went to teach my class. It had been over a week since I taught a class, but I'd been exercising, but I got complete vertigo while I was teaching, vertigo, like the room was spinning. I could barely stand on my platform. And I was like, holy crap. And I had to sit down because what went through my head is like, if I pass out, people are going to freak out. They're going to like come do CPR. So I sat down and said, you guys, I've got vertigo, like I'm going to sit, I'm going to talk to you, but I'm just going to sit. It was just like the weirdest situation. And I, then afterwards had people tell me that sometimes with international travel that can happen. But it was freaky as hell, and it was weird, and it was like embarrassing because you're like, okay, I don't know what's happening here, and I'm just gonna sit down. I can't like I literally started seeing purple, like
it's
that kind of thing.
It's so weird when something like that happens too, and you've got no context for it. Like, and then you talk to people and like, oh yeah, you didn't know that. Like it's like, well, I didn't know this like general rule of thumb. Like I was I was at work sitting here one morning and I had too much coffee and had low blood sugar. And I stood up during a Zoom meeting and I passed out and I like hit my head on the desk going down. And I woke up and I was like, my glasses were all sideways. And I was like, what is going on? Like I was just swearing by myself. And then I realized I didn't know if I was on mute or not during the meeting. But yeah, and then afterwards I talked to people like, oh yeah, you passed out because you stood up too quickly. I'm like, when did everybody else learn that general rule of thumb?
Exactly. Like, what health class did I sleep through? I don't know that.
Exactly. Okay. I got one bonus question for you before we go. There's been a lot of trendy stuff in fitness, a lot of trends, a lot of stuff like in hindsight, probably laughable. What was the worst trend that you can remember, whether it's clothing or you talk like fat-free, sugar-free, that stuff? In hindsight, what was the worst one?
I would say the worst trend in women's fashions that transferred into workout clothes was low-rise bell bottoms. Whose idea was that for exercise? I am not kidding. I will not forget. And even at Lifetime Fitness, that was in the early 2000s, I was wearing bell bottom workout pants that were so wide at the bottom, you can't see your shoe. You know, they're like that big.
Yeah.
Low slung, you know, way low on your hips, which is so dumb. You know, now as you look in hindsight, you know, when your butt crack showing and there's like, what? You're doing fitness. Who cares? But I remember when the step was so popular. So we're stepping up and down on the platform and I would step on my bell bottom because they were just a little too long also, which is also ridiculous when you're doing fitness, and literally almost tumble on your butt, like throughout your step routine, because you're stepping on your bell bottoms. And they were always crazy colors with stupid applique on them. They were hideous. That was such a bad trend.
I didn't even know
so bad.
about
And the other one was permed hair. So when I first got into fitness, all girls had permed hair, and you'd put your hair in a huge high ponytail with big bangs in the front. Wow, bad trend. And also the butt thong leotard. That was before the bell bottoms. That was a horrible trend.
I knew you'd come at me with a couple of good ones. You've probably seen them all.
Yeah. The butt thong leotard was just ridiculous. Yeah.
Let me snag a picture quick just for like some social media stuff. Hey, thanks so much, Chris, for coming on. We're going to just close by saying thanks again, everybody, for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share this podcast with a friend and rate and subscribe to us. Also, please don't forget to follow us on Instagram at FNF Pod. And before I go, where can people find all your stuff? I forgot to ask you for your plugs.
No problem. At Chris Freytag is my handle on Instagram and Facebook. I post every day on Instagram. So Instagram is really where I'm very active. And GetHealthyUTV.com is the streaming service for workouts. And
you guys are for GetHealthyU, that's on Instagram too?
I just manage one Instagram. It's all my name and it's everything about GetHealthyU and everything else I do. Because I was like, forget it. I'm not managing a bunch of different accounts.
You got enough stuff. Well, thanks
That's a time suck.
for coming on. I really appreciate it. And thanks everybody for listening. We're going to leave you with Jaga.
I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. Welcome to my wave pool, my wave pool. 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 Yeah. Welcome to my pool, so wavy. Everything goes so smooth, so gravy. Don't need to be told.